Talmud tells us that Talmud says a very strange thing. It says just as Esther, it's called Ayelet HaShachar. It's called the Rising of the Dawn. Lamnatzeach Ayelet HaShachar. There's a psalm that begins about the Rising of the Dawn. The Talmud says that's a reference to Esther. So Talmud says, why is Esther called the Rising of the Dawn? So Talmud answers that just as the dawn is the end of the night, so too is Esther the end of all miracles. The obvious question is, should be just the opposite. Right? The night is the time when things are hidden, when there are no miracles. The day is the time when there's miracles. What do you mean that Esther is the time of the end of the miracles and that's the dawn? How is that the dawn? So I think the idea is that it's true, that Esther was the middle of the exile. That was the end of miracles. It was the end of God being revealed. But what Esther does, and in this sense she's the dawn, is she prepares us to go into an era when there won't be open miracles. We go into a world in which it's not the first temple. First temple there were certain constant miracles. Second temple wasn't like that. And but Esther is the dawn because she's able to look at the world and she's able to narrate what happens in the world so that even though the miracles aren't open, we can find God even when things are hidden. And of course the Megilah Esther is the words Legalo, to reveal, Esther, the hidden. That's what it means, Megilah Esther. It reveals the hidden. The hidden is God, because God doesn't appear in the Megillah.
How could I have not known that?
Do you want to cover that?
It's not very well known, but it's God that's hidden. And so I think, even though it's the end of all miracles, it's Esther that enables us in the story of Purim, which is seemingly a story of one coincidence after another, and the Jews get saved. But the way that she writes it, the way that she narrates it, she's able to help us to have faith and to find God even in it. And it's interesting. It says at the end of the Megillah, "Vatichtov Esther HaMalka," and Mordechai et Kol Tokef. Esther wrote this. It says Esther first, and then Mordechai. She's the main writer. Esther wrote the Megillah, right? So it's incredibly appropriate that that women are writing a Megillah. That's where it began. But it's not just that she wrote the Megillah to tell us the story. It's that she's the one who knew how to write a Megillah because she knew how to narrate life in order to find God even when God is hidden. And it's interesting. Mordechai says to Esther, he says, go to the king, save us. And Esther doesn't go right to the king. She has to create a whole ruse and a whole system, and because she's not like Mordechai. Mordechai would have just gone, and maybe it would have worked, maybe it wouldn't have worked. But Esther realized that real faith is when you have a plan. You can't just... there's one extreme in which people have everything planned out. That's not really faith. And there's another extreme in which people do nothing. They just leave it all in God's hands. That's not really faith either. What Esther teaches us is that you have to have a plan, even though there's a lot of holes in the plan. It might not work. That's true faith, is faith with a plan. And it's really an inspiring moment. I mean, it's funny, maybe that's sort of right here in the middle of the country, because this is where things begin to happen. It's just really something profound and probably has very little precedent. And it's like Esther. She didn't know how it would all come out. But you launch and you do it, and you don't know, is it really going to happen? 2 years ago, did you think, are we really going to produce a Megillah like this? Unbelievable, right? But that's what Esther teaches us, that real emunah, real faith, is faith, but it's faith with a plan. It's faith with effort. And it's through that, through such writing, through that kind of truly knowing how to narrate with faith that we find God, even where God is seemingly, where God is hidden. So, Yashakach, it's an honor to be here with you. I feel like we're at a moment of, a greatly pregnant moment of incredible potential. And
to write another one.
There you go, right? Start over when you get to
Another generation.
Maybe we should sing something.
So, thank you again for beginning with us. It was 3 years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm getting old.
Remember
Those classes, and really stuck with us through it all. So thank you. Whew. All right, Aviva, some of the technicalities, the practical aspects.
Absolutely. First, before I start, I want to make sure that everybody knows that this whole project was because Phyllis envisioned it, and because she made sure the pieces came together, and she made sure the people came together, and week by week she would push us, come, let's meet, let's practice, and she's really, this is her baby. I want to talk a little bit about the materials that we have. The pen It is our tradition not to use any metal when writing a Megillah because metal is a tool of war. So the options that we have are to use quills, cut very specifically with, surprisingly, a penknife, and notch so that it can absorb up the ink. Another thing that is frequently used are these little resin nibs, which is what we use. We found them to be the easiest to use for our group. After we're done, if you guys want to come up and see the materials, feel free. The ink is made out of only natural materials. There's a few different recipes that are out there, but they basically all contain the same thing: water and gall nuts and gum arabic and some kind of sulfate copper or sulfate iron composite that helps hold it all together. And the rules are that it has to go on black, it has to stay black, it can't fade to some other color like red or blue, and it has to last for a long time. And you'll notice
Who made it? You made it.
we did not make
No,
our own.
we
There was no grinding of
We had a
walnuts.
cold.
So these you can purchase at SoFair stores. This one I think we got in the U.S. We didn't actually go to Israel all the way.
No, but you
I
have
think
someone in the
California.
house that's got in the US, I think. You brought something.
Some is,
That's right.
yeah.
And if you notice that the ink actually is raised slightly on the parchment. It doesn't actually sink in like ink would on regular paper, and you can kind of feel it. So that's one of the characteristics, is it has to like stand up slightly and be shiny. The cloth, the parchment itself, has to be made from a kosher animal, and it has to be made specifically l'shem shemayim, and has to be made with intent of what that cloth is going to be for. If it is designated for a particular mitzvah, it can't be used for a lesser mitzvah. And when they make it, once it's all set and made, they actually take a sharp instrument and score it with lines for the SoFair to use as guidelines. And there's different layouts for a Megillah. The one that we used is laid out such that the word Hamelech appears at the top of almost all the columns, not on the first and not on the last four, because there's just not enough Hamelech to go around. But you'll see at the top of each and every column is the word Megilah. And then the last piece of material, which we almost didn't get in time, is the thread to actually sew the parchments together. You'll see right here how it's folded over and sewn together. This is made also out of animal. They either take tendons or veins and dry it out and smash it up and press it out, and it turns into a very thin little animal-based thread. And that's pretty much all the materials. When we went to do our writing, we created a little guide. First we found a wonderful book that kind of had each letter out on a grid so that you could see the proportions. So we took that and you. So we took that and we once we had learned the strokes, whenever you're creating a letter, there's many different strokes that go into each letter. It's not just you draw it out, but that you have to actually begin the letter with a small line which starts it, and then you move it over, and then you close it, and then you bring the next letter. So it takes a very long time to actually write out all of these letters.
Here it is.
This is Aviva's work. This is now something available to Sofrim around the country. It shows every... Yeah,
so we put it on a grid so we could see what the proportions were. And when we actually went to write it out, one of the things that's a big challenge is making sure you've got it all spaced out well. Because if you don't line it up perfectly, your lamons will end up bumping into your, nun sofites, and you'll have problems, or things will go over lines. And so one thing we did was we took, since this is a standard format with Hamelech at the top of the page, it's always the same amount of letters, same amount of words. So we just put a sheet behind to help us keep track of how to space it out appropriately.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much. So that's the end of the formal program, and we now have cake, and you can have some
Is there a Q&A
heavy...
or
Yes, Q&A. Oh,
No meaning.
So all the rules that you mentioned, where are they located? You can't do this, you have to do that. You can't.
They, in the most
Rabbi.
accessible way, they're located in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law. They come from the Talmud, and Talmud learns it from some of the laws of the Torah, some of the laws, because we have laws that have right other books.
Our group
We have
sat
a
down
video
and learned Rabbi Shafter. There were printouts, handouts. We learned all the different things.
And where does it go now? That's my other question.
This is gonna. I don't know who's gonna hold on to it, but hopefully this will be the Megilah that
This
will
is
be
gonna
that
be
the women's
used.
I
Megilah
think we
Yeah.
should,
each year.
I think we should raise some money to buy a proper,
Case?
Case.
Shelley gave us a
think
case. We
she
have
had
a
a
case.
case.
Oh, she left for Israel?
then it's a
Are you
proper,
still awake?
then it's a proper case.
But you're
Yeah.
gonna use this on
Frozen.
Sunday, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
use it
Yeah.
on
on
Sunday.
Sunday. Oh, we have a
So
proper
actually,
I
you
feel
can
like
roll
it
it.
should be.
It's wet still, isn't it?
There are no rules for how to roll.
Oh, we'll be
You just
exhibited
roll
on
it.
YouTube.
Wait,
Or
wait,
you
roll it up and
Make
then-
sure it's dry.
Make sure it's
dry.
No, no, no.
Right.
It's not dry yet, Phil, it's not dry yet.
It's dry,
Really?
make sure it's dry.
Now give it time.
Well, people can look at it. You can touch it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll
It's
roll it up
very,
later.
so, cake and,